Guys who slept with a friend's mom. Tell us, how was it? When I was in high school, I worked in a crappy restaurant, chopping vegetables, washing dishes. Basically, I was a helper. There was a waitress in this restaurant who started dropping hints at me. Eventually, I realized that this lady, who was much older than me, she was well over 30, was interested in me. And one evening, as we were closing the restaurant, she straight up said, "I'm going home now. I'll undress completely, smoke, and I want you to come with me." Of course, I went. She enjoyed it so much that she kept inviting me over. This went on for over 3 months. The women I was with after her should be grateful for what she taught me. Eventually, she quit the restaurant, and we stopped seeing each other. Meanwhile, in school, a guy started hanging out with us, who I knew from before. One day, we were driving around and smoking. Suddenly, he says, "Bro, let's go to my place, grab some food. My mom is cool, don't worry." As we were approaching his house, it hit me. "Oh, this is Sarah's house." We went in, and I saw the same furniture. Damn, Sarah was his mom. I was standing there, hoping his mother wouldn't wake up. She did wake up, came downstairs, and the first thing she said when she saw me was, "What the hell are you doing here?" It was super awkward. How did you handle this situation? If it's not too personal, a threesome. That's the only way to handle this situation. I was 17 or 18 when I first met my friend's mom. I didn't feel any sexual attraction towards her, maybe because I was a virgin. But over time, I realized there was an attraction. Once I returned home from a military training camp. About 3 days later, I decided to visit my buddy. And when I got to his house, I started feeling something special inside me when I was near his mother. Anyway, my friend still lived with his mom, and we decided to have a picnic. Everything went pretty normal. And at the end of the picnic, she asked me to help her carry chairs to the basement. We carried the chairs to the basement, and I don't know how to explain it. In short, we started touching each other. I don't want to be too explicit, but it was some insanely crazy feeling. In the basement, there was a washing machine and dryer that we leaned on. Plus, there was a weightlifting bench where we ended up moving to, and we finished everything on the basement stairs. This incident is definitely in the top 5 of my most outrageous experiences in life. For the next 3+ years, I felt very guilty. I couldn't look my friend in the eye or hang out with him, knowing that I hooked up with his mom, and eventually I told him everything. My story was as careful and tactful as possible. We were in his car, about a month after I returned from the Marines, smoking. After hearing my story, he looked at me like a piece of crap, which is how I already felt. We got into a small fight right in the car. Fast forward to today. We still talk sometimes, but I know he never truly forgave me, and I don't blame him. I still feel like a messed up jerk, and if I could go back, I would never have done it. I personally believe that friendship is more important. Why did you tell him about this? Obviously, he didn't want to know. What guy would want to know something about his mother's intimate life? Maybe it was selfish of me, but I couldn't bear the guilt. I felt bad. My principle was, if you mess up, you should confess. I wish none of this ever happened. This happened at night. My friend's mom was alone when suddenly someone knocked on the door. I have already told this story here, but okay, I'll tell it again. It was my ex-girlfriend's mother, and the whole situation happened 20 years ago. Damn, I'm so old. I was 22 at the time, and she was 43. She was always cool and hot. That year we had a New Year's party. It was an awesome gathering. We all had a great time and all. At the end of the party, I went into the bedroom to get my coat. There was all the guest clothes hanging there, and I noticed that my ex's mother was lying on the bed. I decided to joke and said something like, "Cool, I came here to lie in bed and you're already in it." I will never forget what happened next. She pulled back the covers and said, "You can lie next to me if you want." Needless to say, I did. Later that same night, I went down to the kitchen to get some water. Her daughter, my ex, was in the kitchen, and it turns out she heard us fooling around with her mom. She looked at me and said she couldn't even look at me anymore. Well, I responded, "Then don't look," and went back to the bedroom. Of course, it was a crappy move on my part, but I was young and stupid. Then we hung out a bit more with her mom. Awesome stuff. 10 out of 10. I would gladly do it again. Wait, at the time of those events, was she already your ex? Yes, she was already my ex 4 years before all this happened. Oh, I see. I had a completely different situation in mind. Not exactly related, but I think this fits here. So, my mom was dating my friend. We were studying together on the same course in college, and all the commotion started around that time. He was a student from Pakistan, and I was a volunteer student who was supposed to help him adjust to everything here. We became really good friends. He started coming over to my place, often to study together, or just chill. That's how he met my mom and got close to her. He liked her from the very beginning. Maybe he already started hitting on her from the start, but I didn't know. I started noticing this a few months later, but it still seemed like he was just friendly towards her and nothing more. At least, that's how it seemed to me. By the second semester, I began to suspect that my Pakistani buddy was indeed trying to hit on my mom, though I didn't dwell on it too long because my mom was married, and I couldn't even imagine that there was even a slight chance she would fall for my friend. In short, I brushed it off, but they started dating, not openly, towards the end of the first semester. Eventually, Dad started suspecting something, and problems began between him and my mom. For a while, my mom tried to keep it a secret, but eventually, she told everything. They got divorced in December last year. After the divorce, Mom and Sam continued their meetings openly. P.S. Obviously, this is not my real account. Does a friend's dad count? I found him on Grindr and said hello to him. Dad looked much better on Grindr than in family photos. We started meeting regularly, a few times a month. My friend doesn't know anything about this, and I probably won't tell him anything. The friend knows his dad is gay, but I don't think he's aware that his dad is in a relationship. I don't think I'll go into detail about how good my friend's dad is in bed. Once after school, I went to visit my buddy. I have to admit, it was just an excuse to see his mom. I was literally obsessed with her. Unfortunately, she wasn't home. I asked my friend, has she returned from her business trip, or is this little minx avoiding me? I remember once I was mowing the lawn in her yard, and she came out wrapped only in a towel. From her look, I immediately understood that she liked me. Damn, the way she said, looks like you missed a spot over there. Honestly, I almost come in my shorts. My friend's dad recently left them, and I thought I could fill her emptiness. As it turned out, my friend's mom was also crazy about me. During one of the sleepovers at my buddy's house, we hooked up. The next day, she got arrested. Most likely, my friend called the police. Later, it turned out that, apparently, my friend was in love with me. And also that it's illegal for a 40-year-old woman to hook up with an underage guy. Is this whole story a reference to the song Stacy's Mom? It wasn't my friend's mom, but his aunt. I had known her for 10 years, but we almost never talked. She had such a purely American life. A husband, 3 sons. They enjoyed hiking, archery, and Boy Scout activities, always hanging out with family and friends. Her husband was cheating on her with the moms of his son's friends. She was unaware of this. One day she found out but decided not to say anything, wanting to keep the family together. She kept it to herself for 4 years. Finally, when she turned 40, after 20 years of marriage, she decided to divorce her husband. A very messy divorce. Her ex manipulated their children into thinking she wanted to break up the family, so they distanced themselves from her. During most of my teenage years, I often visited my friend's, her nephew house. We lived on the same street and would often hang out together, smoke some weed, and just chill. One summer, I spent almost the entire time at my buddy's house. I was around 23 and his aunt was 42 when we finally managed to have a conversation while sitting at the table. She didn't smoke. She just visited the family, as that was all she had left at that point. After a couple of weeks, we started to have more conversations at their house or by their pool. When there were many people around, our talks were quite short. However, we communicated through glances and light, accidental touches. She was in fantastic shape. A sweet blonde, strong, determined. It was clear she had been through a lot. We started texting after exchanging numbers for arranging a Halloween party for her family. Eventually, our neutral messages turned into flirting. We started hugging each other longer and tighter when saying goodbye. And you know, she hugged me a bit longer and harder than ordinary friends do. One evening, I was at my acquaintance's house and taking care of their pets. They left, and I had nothing to do. So I decided to invite her to see the dogs and a strange lizard they had. She accepted the invitation, and I was so nervous you can't imagine. She came over. We ordered Italian food. She didn't want the delivery guy to see her. That's when I realized she had some dirty intentions in mind. We ended up in front of the TV, her head on my chest, my hand on her butt. About 30 seconds later, we started kissing. And at the same time, I started taking off her pants. As her pants came off, she mentioned she hadn't done this in 5 years and was very nervous. It was the hottest sex of my life. I remember it vividly. She asked me to finish inside her to feel the warmth. She was my best sex partner. For the next year, we met 5 more times. I went to her place. She cooked dinner for me. We drank wine and had the most passionate sex of my life. In the end, I found someone else, and she found someone new, but we stayed in touch. Then we met again. Both she and I broke up with our new halves. I still see her a couple of times a year when visiting my friend for family barbecues. Everything's fine. We still communicate through glances and touches, still hug each other for too long and too tightly. No one suspects anything. How weird was that lizard? Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below the video, well, you know what to write. And don't forget to check out our other videos. Goodbye.